Hello, this is Madeline
and Sonara,
and we're starting with the Sight for Wight news for Friday the 9th of August. On Tuesday the 13th of August, the Strollers group will be meeting for a walk around the Shanklin area. Coffee is booked for 10:45 a.m. at the Laburnum Cottage Tea Room, and lunch is booked for 12 noon at the Crab Inn in Shanklin. To join the Strollers group, please contact Sight for Wight on 522205. The swimming group are swimming at the Waterside Pool in Ryde from 8 p.m. till 8:45 p.m. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the Sight for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group.
On Wednesday the 14th of August, the weekly coffee morning and low vision drop-in held at Millbrook House will not take place during August. The book group will be meeting at Lord Louis Library between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. We discuss the last month's book over tea and coffee and hand out the book for the next month. The books are available on CD or USB. Please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 for more information, or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
Thursday the 15th of August. The Thursday social group will not be meeting at Millbrook House during August.
Any other news? Chris Kane was on Vectis Radio with Maggie and Kelvin Curry on Tuesday 29th of July. This can be heard later in the programme. Raffle tickets are now available for our annual raffle, which will be drawn on the 31st of October. The tickets are £1 each and come in a book of 5 tickets. Please contact Sight for Wight on 522205 or email inquiries@iwsb.org.uk if you would like to purchase tickets. Sight for Wight is looking for donations of tombola prizes for upcoming summer shows, and also donations of raffle prizes, i.e. meals, car MOTs, gift tokens, etc. from businesses. If you are able to help, please contact Sight for Wight on 522205 or email admin@iwsb.org.uk. Day sailing on the Spirit of Scott Bader catamaran. This is a purpose-designed catamaran which we hope to be joining for a day's sailing around the Solent on Thursday, September 19th. Timings are dependent on the tides, but will probably be early morning to mid-afternoon and will be confirmed closer to the date. Assuming full capacity, the cost will be £27 per person, but this may change if all spaces are not taken. Due to limited spaces available, places will be offered on a first-come, first-served basis. Closing date for applications is 23rd of August. For further details, please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
Eye Contact Exhibition 2019 at the Aegeus Bowl in Southampton. We are considering a group trip to this exhibition on Wednesday the 25th of September. Event time is 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. To gauge whether there would be sufficient interest in this trip, please register your interest by Friday the 23rd of August. Once we know possible numbers, we can finalise transport arrangements. For more details, please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk. Beware of scams. Further to our finance officer Lisa's article in the newsletter about her recent experience with a scam call, we have been contacted by a member about a number of nuisance calls they have received recently. The best advice is to end the call if you are at all uncertain about the nature of the call, and never give any information over the phone unless you are 100% certain you know who you are speaking to. Please note that there will not be a West Wight coffee and chat at the end of the line Cafe Freshwater on Tuesday the 27th of August. Also, there will not be a Knighton coffee and chat at Knighton Post Office on Tuesday the 3rd of September.
This week's InTouch. Access to health records and accessible fun. Michael Tupper from Clitheroe in Lancashire tells Peter Wight about legal action he is taking against East Lancashire Hospitals Trust because they aren't giving him details on appointments and other information in his preferred format, large print. Michael is being supported by RNIB, whose legal advisor, Sam Fothergill, provides us with the legal background of the case. We also hear from Lookfest, which is a weekend festival in Hereford for blind and partially sighted young people. Reporter Lucy Edwards brings us the atmosphere and chats to parents and their children. Finally, Christina Keeler, who has 2 sensory impairments, joins us from Brighton and explains the challenges she faces of being both visually impaired and having hyperacusis. The presenter is Peter Wight and the producer is Tom Walker.
Moving on to the Isle of Wight County Press for the 9th of August 2019. There are 2 headlines. First, Lord calls for fixed link, and second, kite surfer dies after cliff crash. Lord calls for fixed link. Labour peer Lord Adonis has waded into the Isle of Wight fixed link debate, asking why a tunnel or a bridge hasn't been built. Lord Adonis was Transport Secretary in 2009-2010, but it took a frustrating trip to the island when his ferry was delayed for an hour for him to ask the ferry links and for him to question the ferry links and infrastructure. Island MP Bob Seeley criticised the comments, asking why nothing was done for the Isle of Wight when Lord Adonis was in government. Lord Adonis first raised his frustrations on Twitter last weekend. He said, I now understand huge problems suffered by the Isle of Wight. Arrived by train at Portsmouth for 10:15 ferry, a scheduled connection. Ferry late, long queue, ferry then full. 100 people told they have to wait for next ferry in an hour. How to undermine your economy case study. Why has a fixed link never been built? Is it opposition on the island or poor representation at Westminster? It could be done easily and would be transformational for better. He later added, I'm struck by the cost, unpopularity and shoddy service of the Isle of Wight ferries and the lack of political leadership to sort it out and improve the island's weak economy. As well as the utterly crap ferry service, there is no compensation when it is late or non-existent. Why do people on the Isle of Wight put up with this? Why is their MP so useless? He also tweeted about the 1938 tube train on the Island Line and described the island as like a museum of the 1950s. Mr. Seeley gave a furious response. He said, well, you were an advisor, a minister and a cabinet minister in a Labour government, so perhaps you can tell us why you, Labour, weren't interested in your 13 years in power. or why Island Line and the island got so little infrastructure support. I do hope you were better informed when you were a minister. It is all very well slagging things off, but it would be better if you had a semblance of background information. Since being elected in 2017, I and others are working very hard to make improvements. We pay too much for the ferries. That's one reason we set up the Transport Infrastructure Board, to make sure the ferries deliver better services. I don't mean to be grumpy, but I find it a little frustrating when folks who've had real power ask why the island hasn't had its share. Speaking to the county press, Lord Adonis said, "Why in 2019 is the Isle of Wight still dependent on a dilapidated ferry service rather than a tunnel or a bridge? After all, if we can connect England and France and England and Wales with tunnels, and the Isle of Skye and the Humber with long bridges, it's surely a no-brainer to do the same thing with the Isle of Wight, which is being trashed economically by the absence of such a tunnel. I do not recall being approached by either the council or the then MP with plans for a fixed link or other transport schemes when I was Transport Secretary. I do remember asking the then MP why there wasn't a bridge or a tunnel, and he told me he didn't support one. I have no axe to grind or interest in this other than wanting the best for the Isle of Wight, which has a stunning future if it isn't trashed by the continued poor leadership. Fixed link campaigners, pro-link, have a Solent Freedom Tunnel plan, but without public funding secured for a viability study, it is relying on donations to raise the £100,000 plus VAT needed. Carl Feeney of ProLink said, "Lord Adonis has experienced the cross-Solent plight that many endure. Political partisanship and point scoring against Lord Adonis will achieve nothing, and for the good of the island, it needs to stop. We need to address the obvious problems while securing realistic, logical, long-term solutions. The viability study is the first step. Lord Adonis has listed his ideas for the Isle of Wight. An independent review of a fixed link with the mainland, including a rail tunnel linking into a metro system serving Ventnor, Newport, Cowes and Yarmouth. Nationalise the ferries. Under 21s given free travel to and from mainland. Portsmouth and Southampton universities set up a joint campus on the Isle of Wight. An equivalent of London Challenge set up for Isle of Wight secondary schools, and Teach First asked to supply best teachers. A major state employer, Environment Agency, query, moved to the island. A job strategy drawn up by the Treasury.
Kite surfer dies after cliff crash. A kite surfer has died after crashing into the cliffs at Compton Bay. Multiple Isle of Wight emergency crews were called to the scene shortly after 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, including Coast Guard and lifeboat teams, firefighters and paramedics. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance and Coast Guard helicopter both attended. The man was winched off the beach and taken to hospital. At the time of the incident, a UK Coast Guard spokesperson said it was immediately clear the kite surfer had suffered extreme injuries. A police spokesperson said a man in his 50s was airlifted to Southampton General Hospital and was later pronounced dead. We are not treating the death as suspicious, and a file is being prepared for the coroner.
1 in 5 wait 4 hours at A&E. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust is taking action in all areas after its annual report revealed it missed almost half of its performance targets and had to borrow an extra £13 million. Its performance was in the red for 12 of the 25 recorded areas in 2018-19, including waiting times for A&E, urgent cancer treatment and ambulances. In A&E, the 4-hour target for being admitted, transferred or discharged was met just 82% of the time by the Trust. A spokesperson for the Isle of Wight NHS Trust said, "We are totally committed to improving our services, and our teams have been working flat out to achieve our ambition of getting to good by 2020. Local people rightly expect the best possible standards of care, and we are taking action in all areas of the organisation to improve. We have stepped up recruitment, both at home and abroad, and introduced a real focus on developing our staff so that we can provide the standard of care that our community and we expect." The annual report also showed the Trust, already in financial special measures, had to significantly increase its deficit 9 months into the year, from about £17 million to £30 million. This took its total annual borrowing from the Department of Health and Social Care to almost £70 million. The spokesperson said, "We spent more than we should last year because we decided to invest in patient care. Our financial challenge remains significant, but so far this year we are on track to meet our savings plan, and we have launched a campaign across the Trust called Save to Invest, which will help our teams reduce waste so that we can continue to invest in frontline services. We know there is a way to go, but there has been significant improvement over the last year, particularly in our community services and in the care we provide to people at the end of their lives. The Trust will soon publish a 3-year plan for how it will make its services more sustainable."
£48 million for Isle of Wight NHS. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced a £48 million funding boost for the Isle of Wight NHS Trust for building and IT improvements. The cash has been allocated to St Mary's from an £850 million funding pot for 20 hospitals to upgrade outdated facilities and equipment. The Isle of Wight was the only trust in the South East to receive funding. Just £177 million of the £850 million went to hospitals in London and the South. Isle of Wight NHS Trust Chief Executive Maggie Oldham said, "This much-needed investment will help us continue to improve the services we provide to local people. It is fantastic news for our local NHS, for the people we look after and the people that work so hard supporting our community. By working together with our commissioners, the council and the community and voluntary sectors, we will use this boost to ensure our services are sustainable for future generations." She thanked MP Bob Seeley for making the island's case to the government and working so hard to get the Isle of Wight the recognition it deserves. Mr. Seeley said the funding was good news for islanders, but more work was needed. The announcement follows the publication of the Trust's annual report and accounts showing a deficit of £22.9 million. A Trust spokesperson said, "The financial challenge remains significant." Opposition parties have welcomed the funding but said it is not enough. Ireland Labour Chair Julian Critchley said, "This sum doesn't begin to address the very serious funding shortfall which has seen the hospital placed in both financial and care quality special measures." Vix Lowthian, Isle of Wight Green Party leader, said, "We must have clarity from the Trust about what new buildings and IT facilities will mean for island patients accessing care."
Saving the bees from Asian hornets. Isle of Wight bee experts have trained Island Road staff to spot Asian hornets, which pose a serious threat to bee populations. The hornets are native to China but have travelled through Europe, colonising Jersey and parts of northern France, and there are fears the island could be next. Island Road staff work in every corner of the island, making them ideally placed to spot the invaders. Liz Van Wyck of the Isle of Wight Beekeepers Association, IWBKA, gave a talk at Island Road's headquarters. She said, "It is important as many people as possible are aware of the Asian hornet, as their vigilance will be key in preventing the creatures from settling here, which would have devastating consequences for our ecosystem. Asian hornets are slightly smaller than European hornets, with darker bodies and distinctive yellow legs. Sightings can be reported on a Facebook page set up by the IWBKA called Isle of Wight Asian Hornet Watch."
West Wight Schools plan axed. Plans to relocate Yarmouth Primary School to Freshwater have been scrapped by the Isle of Wight Council to avoid a costly court case. The decision follows a threat of legal action against the council lodged by Yarmouth school campaigners, challenging its power to relocate the school to a new site. The legal challenge said only the governors who opposed the plans had the power to agree a relocation. The future for schools in the West Wight now looks uncertain, after the council said it would have to draw up new plans to address the issue of surplus places in the area. A council spokesperson said, "Last week the council withdrew the public notice issued on July 19th in relation to school places in the West Wight following a legal challenge. It is disappointing that persons unknown to this authority initiated this action before the outcomes of the consultation were even known, creating further uncertainty for young people in the area." Central to the threat of legal action was the assertion that only the governors of Yarmouth Primary School could agree to its relocation. From the very outset of the process, the council's sole focus has not been about buildings, but the children using them, not only now, but long into the future. Their best interests have been central to the extensive work the council has been doing in trying to ensure we future-proof the provision of primary school places in the West Wight. The plans, now scrapped, proposed closing All Saints Primary School Freshwater in April next year. Yarmouth School would then be expanded and relocated to the All Saints site when building works were completed there. Carla Bradshaw and Mark Webber, co-chairs of governors at the Federation of the Church Schools of Shalfleet and Yarmouth, told the council they opposed the move back in June. They wrote to Councillor Paul Brading, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills, telling him the proposal pays no attention to the educational outcomes of the current pupils who are at the heart of the issue. They criticised the increase in planned admission numbers for Yarmouth. Class sizes would have doubled from 15 to 30. To avoid the legal costs of taking the matter to court, the council is now exploring other options. The council spokesperson continued, "Mindful of using limited council resources to resolve the matter in court, rather than being spent on the children, the authority has decided to find an alternative way of achieving its aim of reducing capacity and improving the outcomes for young people in the area, and a new cabinet paper is being prepared."
More GP surgeries to merge. 2 more island GP practices are set to join forces in the third merger announced by the NHS Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group this summer. Shanklin Medical Centre and Sandown Health Centre, which have around 12,000 registered patients each, will become a combined practice in April. Both sites will stay open and patients will have a greater choice of which one they attend. There will be no job losses and the current pool of doctors will work for the merged practice. The merged practice will have a new name, and some things that were previously handled by a GP will be undertaken by other healthcare professionals in the future. Dr. Hugh Trowell from Sandown Health Centre said, "Both practices already work closely together. We share the same vision of healthcare for our patients, and we strongly believe our merger will help us build on our existing services to the wide patient community we service. The two practices believe in continuity of care and will be maintaining registered lists with each GP. We also aim to review on the day and visiting services to ensure acute needs can be managed effectively." Dr. Simon Giles from Shanklin Medical Centre said, "The merged practice will encourage access to health services through wider use of technology, including an updated website, online ordering of repeat prescriptions, online booking of appointments, e-consultations and health advice." Mergers were also announced for 4 other GP practices in May. Carisbrooke Medical Centre and Dower House Surgery, Newport, will join forces in October, and Ventnor Medical Centre and the Grove House Surgery, Ventnor, will merge in April.
Deer Farm opens doors. A farm with more than 200 deer has opened to visitors. The working deer farm at Nunnery Lane on the outskirts of Newport will welcome both islanders and tourists alike to enjoy the deer, the countryside setting and spectacular views. Visitors can see the deer from guided walks of the 334-acre farm, which is already home to 145 red deer and 61 fallow deer, a number which is continually growing as the calving period is in full swing. There has been a small herd grazing the land for more than 15 years, unknown to many local residents, but since recently being acquired by Natural Farm Produce, 70 additional deer have been introduced. All calving has been retained to increase growth in line with the company's future expansion plans. Guided walking tours and driven tours will be available. The appeal for visitors spans throughout the year, with everything from the summer birthing season, antler growth, plus stags and bucks roaring for the rutting season between September and November. Juan L. Vicente, director of Natural Farm Produce, finished a 4-year search for a farm when he discovered New Close Farm. He said, "We hope to showcase the conservation of these animals and grow the herd to become one of the most significant deer farms in the UK. We will focus on deer, but will always have in mind the soil conservation, the animal care, and contributing to biodiversity. We want to spread knowledge about deer and the properties of venison, leading to the education of both professionals and the general public on the full life cycle of these spectacular creatures and their health benefits to humans. Future plans include selling high-quality venison at an on-site farm shop." Mr. Vicente said the market for deer meat was growing, as the meat is known for its low-fat content.
Squatter told to move van from beauty spot. A squatter has been ordered by magistrates to move his camper van, bird baths and other belongings from Blackgang Viewpoint car park. Francis Keown admitted a civil charge of unauthorised camping when he appeared before Island magistrates on Monday, after ignoring a notice from the Isle of Wight Council to remove the makeshift home he had set up for himself. He was told he had 7 days to clear the site just next to the car park, or the council, which owns the land, will clear it for him and send him the bill. Keown said he had been using the land consistently since 1998 and had only just been served with a notice it belonged to the council. Jenny Ager, prosecuting on behalf of the council, said, "He has just decided to set up camp there and he has been making changes to the land, such as placing a padlock on one of the gates. We don't want him there, and while he says he won't be there today, he will just be back again tomorrow." The court heard Keown had previously spoken to council officers and repeatedly argued he was improving the land and had only made minor changes. Keown has not been living at the site full time and gave his home address as High Street, Freshwater. He described himself as the self-appointed custodian of the land. Representing himself in court, he said the area was disused and had become a hotspot for fly tipping, which he had cleaned up. Keown told the court, "If I were to show you the photos of the rubbish I had to clean up, you would be shocked. I said to the council, if this is your land, why aren't you doing anything about the fly tipping?" He added, "It's a toilet, it's a health, safety and waste hazard." Presiding Magistrate Peter Redding said, "We aren't arguing if the land is your property. We aren't asking if it was an eyesore. We appreciate you have done a lot of work for the area, but in this case that is entirely immaterial. Squatters' rights went a long time ago. You do not have the right to take that land from anyone."
Guns and ammo handed in. Firearms, including a revolver and a shotgun, were handed in to Island Police during a gun surrender. 70 firearms were handed in across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight during the 2-week surrender, including 9 items on the island, a mixture of guns and ammunition, including an air rifle, a pistol, a revolver, BB gun, flare gun and a shotgun. Other items included imitation firearms, BB guns and tasers. The appeal was launched on July the 20th, giving people a chance to hand in any unwanted or illegal firearms to police so that they could be disposed of safely. Chief Inspector Karen McManus, Tactical Firearms Lead for Hampshire and Thames Valley, said, "We would like to thank everyone who handed in any firearms or ammunition as part of this surrender. As a result, our neighbourhoods are much safer, both for our residents and for our officers, who work every day and night to protect them. Gun crime is low in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight and has not seen a rise. Other force areas have. However, we cannot be complacent, and we will continue to do all we can to make our communities safer. Hampshire Constabulary joined police forces across the country to take part in the national campaign run by the National Ballistics Intelligence Service, NABIS. Those surrendering firearms did not face prosecution for illegal possession and were allowed to remain anonymous. However, it was not an amnesty. If further examination of a firearm reveals a link to a crime, it will be investigated.
Grant helps rescue team. Isle of Wight Search and Rescue, SAR, has received £13,500 worth of new radio equipment after being awarded a grant. The rescue service was awarded the grant by supermarket chain Morrison's to go towards setting up an Isle of Wight encrypted digital radio service. Wight SAR chairman Dean Terrett said, "The new equipment will be far more effective over greater distances and will also enable us to coordinate our search volunteers more effectively. Encrypted digital radio allowed users to have much faster and clearer communication across a wider range, as well as track one another's location. The money donated by Morrison's has been used to buy radio sets for search vehicles and 18 handsets. Dean said, depending on terrain, these radios have a very limited range of only 5 kilometres to 10 kilometres in a typical rural environment and significantly less in the forest. The result is that we will be able to provide a better service during crucial searches. The grant comes after Vectis Radio agreed to host the SAR's main repeater equipment just outside Newport. Dean said, without the support of Vectis Radio, the organisation would have really struggled. We're a voluntary group called in by police as required to search for high-risk missing people ranging from children to people with dementia. Kelvin Curry, director of Vectis Radio, said, we both use radio communication to serve the community, although in different ways. We work closely together when needed.
Surfing therapy given big boost. A surf therapy charity has been awarded more than £200,000 to fund a 5-year programme on the island. The Wave Project is a charitable organisation that offers surfing as a form of therapy to children and young people who suffer with emotional difficulties. The charity was awarded £206,700 from the National Lottery as part of a plan to expand the service. Abby James, the charity's project coordinator, said, we are delighted the impact of surf therapy has been recognised with the allocation of this funding. By supporting the charity for the next 5 years, we will be able to provide a valuable and dependable resource to young people who would otherwise find themselves isolated and unsure of where to turn to for help on the Isle of Wight. We give young people a place where they can make friends and have fun, while also remaining safe and supportive and welcoming of everybody. The charity has worked with more than 150 young people on the island. Wave Project founder and chief executive Joe Taylor said, we are so pleased that children on the island will be able to access surf therapy for at least the next 5 years. It's a fantastic tribute to the hard work of our staff and volunteers here that the project has been such a success.
Goddard's plans new attraction at Branston. Goddard's plans to open a new brewery, bottling facility and visitor attraction at Branston. Tasting events, a viewing gallery so people can see how the beer is brewed, a bar and shop would feature at the new site. The oldest brewery on the island has submitted a planning application to move to the larger Branston farm site from its current home at Barnsley Farm in Ryde. Brewery founder Anthony Goddard said it would be similar to Bridlesford Farm and the Garlic Farm. He said it will be a showcase of the beers we produce. It will be based on fun and humour and not taking it all too seriously. Most places like this are quite dry, and I don't mean the opposite of beer. A small bar area would serve light refreshments and lunches, but it would not be a full-scale pub or restaurant. The plans include an indoor viewing deck looking over the brewery and a sheltered outdoor balcony looking south over the landscape. Mr. Goddard said, I hope it will be a place that in the winter a lot of locals will use. We will be aiming for local support, not just the tourist trade. A small shop is also proposed, selling beers and other island produce, plus more than 60 parking spaces. The site, next to the Jubilee Garden Centre and opposite the Victory Tea Room, would be accessed from the main road through Arreton. The building has been planned and designed by ERMC Architects. The plans have been lodged with the Isle of Wight Council.
Wight City homes for sale. The first homes in a new development at the old Wight City site in Sandown have gone up for sale. Plans for the 47-home breakwaters development at Culver Parade were approved by the Isle of Wight Council last May. They include 2, 3 and 4 bedroom flats and houses, cafes for residents and visitors, and 69 parking spaces. Work started at the site last June. Estate agent Hose Rhodes Dixon is advertising 2-bedroom penthouse apartments for £425,000, 3-bedroom houses for £285,000, and 5-bedroom houses for £575,000. The application for breakwaters was submitted by Andrew White Planning Consultancy on behalf of Clemens and Tanner Limited. The council is currently dealing with matters surrounding conditions attached to the application, such as drainage and sewage plans. Island Roads and Southern Water have been consulted.
Island team crowned winners at World Pedalo Championship. A huge crowd turned out to cheer on the teams at the White Marine World Pedalo Championships at Kings Manor Farm, Freshwater on Sunday. The event raised more than £10,000 for Wet Wheels, a sailing charity run by paraplegic yachtsman Jeff Holt, who lost the use of his legs following a diving accident when he was 18. Wet Wheels takes out disabled young people and their helpers for sailing trips. Jeff was there along with Isle of Wight Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon to present the claret jug to the winners, Cheetah Marine, who were also the youngest team taking part. Organiser Miles Peckham said, "This was the second World Championships, but the third year the Pedalos have been running for Wet Wheels. In our first year we broke the Pedalo world record. We have raised thousands of pounds for the charity so far, and every £1,000 will take 40 people out on the water. It's ironic Cheetah Marine won it because they make the Wet Wheels boats at their base in Ventnor. A total of 16 teams took part in ideal conditions, including 3 yacht clubs, including one from the island, the Royal Solent Yacht Club in Yarmouth. There were also teams representing Virgin Atlantic and White Marine River Yard Boatyard, which sponsors the event. The racing was fantastic, and for a couple of races we had to refer to video to see which team won."
No apologies for school absence fines. The Isle of Wight Council makes no apologies for fining parents who take their children out of school. Following criticism, it has reached too quickly for sanctions. A string of recent court cases has seen parents fined for unauthorised school absences, and figures published earlier this year showed that 1 in 7 parents on the island had been fined, more than anywhere else in the country. The council said it was committed to ensuring pupils attended school. In one case, a family was fined for taking their 3 children, 2 of whom had epilepsy, to Disneyland Paris on a trip paid for by a charity. Another family with children with learning difficulties was fined for repeated lateness. Island Labour Chair Julian Critchley said, "Often families with children with additional needs will have the greatest challenges. It is the school and the council's responsibility to provide support for those families, rather than reach too quickly for sanctions. Being the local authority to impose the most fines on its own residents, particularly relating to children with special educational needs, is not something to be proud of. Quite the reverse." In March, it was announced the Isle of Wight was still top of the table for the proportion of parents fined for unauthorised school absences, at 135 per 1,000 pupils. A council spokesperson said, The council does all it can to ensure that pupils attend school and makes no apologies for doing so. Parents are fined at the discretion of the head teacher with guidance and support from the council. This is national policy. Education standards continue to improve through the hard work of staff, pupils, and this council. The authority works to ensure this improvement continues, including issuing fines for unauthorised absences. The council is not allowed to profit from the fines. Any income is reinvested in education.
Partner admits assault. A former chef has been banned from contacting his ex-partner after he pushed her to the ground and stamped on her belongings. Robert Dave Burnett, 35, appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, where he admitted one count of assault. The court heard the victim was staying at another address, separate from their home at Garden Way, Newport, when he turned up and demanded a set of house keys. She ignored him and later returned home, not expecting him to be there. However, Burnett came running down the stairs shouting, "Get out of my house!" Prosecutor Anne Smout said he pushed her to the ground, emptied her bag and started stamping on the contents, shouting, "I'll kill you." Mrs. Smout said 5 separate calls were made to the police, all from concerned neighbours who witnessed the assault. Police did visit her, but reported she was too scared to leave the property in case he returned in her absence, said Mrs. Smout. Barry Arnett, defending, said of his client, "At the end of the day, he's thrown away a 17-year relationship. He's 35, he's currently not working, and he tells me a couple of days before the incident he had been to a funeral. It is quite obvious from what you have heard the relationship is now over." Burnett was given a 24-month community order and restraining order, banning him from contacting his former partner. He was also ordered to complete a Building Better Relationships course and fined £130.
A true community fete. The traditional Calbourne fete was hailed as one of the best ever when more than £3,000 was raised to help with the running of All Saints Church. Organiser Angie Clayton said, "It was a fabulous day and we had such great feedback. It was a lot of money to raise when you think there was free entry and free parking. None of this could be possible without the help of the local community, for which we are extremely grateful. The weather was kind to us with plenty of sun, and it made for one of the best ever fetes. The teas and coffee stall has never been so busy." The fete at Westover House was opened by the Isle of Wight Highland Pipes and Drums Band. Celebrations continued with arena entertainment, a fun dog show, children's games, tug of war, won by the girls, a variety of stalls, barbecue, bar, and refreshments. And that's all that we have time for. So it's goodbye from Sonara.
And goodbye from Madeline.
Hello, this is Lester.
And Den.
And we'll start with the readers' letters. And the first letter comes from Ruth Hollingshead, Carisbrook. Kindness causes dilemma for dogs. This is a tricky one because the problem I'm experiencing is actually being caused by consideration and keenness to be kind and helpful, but it is an issue that is occurring more and more, often on a daily basis. I am a guide dog owner and obviously work my dog to help me navigate my routes and negotiate the shops and pavements in my area. Many people are not aware that while guide dogs are taught to locate crossings and tactile pavement at junctions, they do not tell the owner when to cross the road. They do not look out for the lights changing colour or listen out for the beep of the traffic lights. Instead, they are trained to override the owner if it is not safe. Blind and visually impaired people use the rotating cone under the control box of the pelican crossings to tell when the lights change, and we then tell our dogs to cross. However, if it is not safe, then the dog will refuse to cross. Guide dogs are trained not to cross in front of a car with its engine running, unless it is at a crossing, and this brings me on to my problem. More and more I'm finding drivers are stopping short of junctions or pulling up in the road to let me cross, and strangely enough this is often accompanied by a flash of their headlights or wave, so I've been told. While the driver thinks they are doing a good deed, letting the blind person cross the road, they are actually making it unsafe. Not only will my dog not cross in front of the car, but also the noise of the engine means I'm unable to hear what the other road users are doing. I also do not know what the driver is doing. All I can hear is the engine. I don't know whether the driver is parking, reversing into a drive, letting a passenger out, or letting another vehicle pass. Therefore, I'd just like to end by saying thank you for your consideration, but please just carry on with your manoeuvre and be mindful when I or any other guide dog owner waves you on or steps back from the curve. We are not being difficult or ungrateful. We are using the mobility tactics we have been taught and keeping ourselves safe.
And from John Medland, Isle of Wight Council Member for Freshwater South. This is best plan for West Wight primaries. I agree with many of the points in Councillor Steve Cowley's letter, County Press 2nd of the 8th 19, over the future of Yarmouth and Freshwater primary schools. No one wants to see any of our 5 remaining precious West Wight schools close. However, in the current West Wight School Places consultation, we need to fix how we can manage a projected reduction of 30% in pupils in the next few years, itself a worrying result of low wages and market-led house building. Given the impoverished local education budget, something has to give. Since February, I have been part of a freshwater community group which examined all the possible options of federation or closure. Our recommendation, accepted by the Isle of Wight Council after the first round of consultation, was that the Shalfleet Yarmouth School Confederation should take over running the freshwater site, which is promised a multi-million-pound rebuild. Key to our recommendations was the fact the new school will be within walking distance for 60% of the West Wight's children, whereas only a handful of children living in Yarmouth attend Yarmouth School. During the second round of consultation, the Yarmouth community failed to come up with an alternative workable proposal. The formal judicial review against the Isle of Wight Council consultation, lodged at the end of July, will merely have the effect of delaying the whole process further. Staff are left in complete uncertainty as to whether they have jobs for a year or more. Parents do not know which uniform to purchase, and our tiniest schoolchildren are left uncertain over their future school. There has already been chronic uncertainty for all these people for the last 5 months, and the disruption of the rebuild could take another 2 years. We need to agree on a workable plan and a defined timetable so everyone knows what is going to happen to them. The Isle of Wight Council has a plan and process in place, and we need to follow this. The judicial review merely freezes the process. It should be dropped, and we should be allowed to reach a democratic consensus as soon as possible to end all this uncertainty.
And this is from Alec Penston in Shanklin. Wartime love still going strong. Early in December 1943, I was given a draft to join a boat in Scapa Flow. On arrival, I was told to join a First World War submarine dug up out of the mud at Chatham and brought into service as an escort to an Arctic convoy. When I said I'd not volunteered for subs, I was told, "Hard luck, you have now, take it up with your drafting officer if we get back." Things did not improve when I was told to fill in a next of kin form. We sailed that night to escort a convoy to Merkenmask. When we reached the Bear Island in the Arctic Ocean, we were told the German pocket ship Snarlhorst had sailed from her lair with 3 destroyers as a backup to annihilate the ships we were escorting. As we were not fit for purpose, we were told to turn round and join a returning convoy to the UK. Back home I was given Christmas leave and arrived back in London, my hometown, early on Christmas Eve. My mother and young brother were evacuated and my older sister was working, so I had to scrounge Christmas dinner somewhere. I went to visit my aunt and was introduced to a young lady who was engaged to my cousin, also in the RN. I walked her home and it was near where I was staying at my sister's. I was invited in and introduced to her lovely 17-year-old sister who was opening in pantomime on Boxing Day. She agreed I could escort her there. Boxing Day came, and with a real London smog, and by the time I arrived at the young lady's house she had left, so I made my way to the stage door and the keeper said, "Gladys told me to expect a sailor." For the next 4 days I was a stage door Johnny. We became engaged after I survived D-Day and 10 Arctic convoys. When VE Day came, I was kept at sea rounding up U-boats and before being given leave back to my girl. I hoped to be demobbed, but 5 hours after returning from leave, I was drafted to the Far East, so I asked our parents if we could marry as we were still classed as minors. I only had 5 days leave when consent was given, but the vicar of our local church wanted 3 weeks to call the banns, and he advised us to see the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is another lovely story. But to finish the tale, we are now celebrating our 74th wedding anniversary. Our one and only child, our daughter Jacqueline, was born 17 years after our marriage.
From Roger Gaddis, Branston. Cheaper answer than lights plan. The Isle of Wight Council appears determined to pour a large sum of money, which it could make yet a better use of, into a major project to replace St Mary's roundabout with light-controlled junctions, when a simpler and cheaper scheme would cure the current peak hour congestion. The St Mary's roundabout suffers from a combination of 2 classic roundabout problems: asymmetric flow patterns and tidal flow. A roundabout works best with a symmetrical flow pattern when mutual interference between the traffic flows creates gaps in the traffic on the roundabout, allowing traffic to enter from the feeder streams. A problem occurs with an asymmetrical traffic flow pattern when a dominant feeder stream takes control of the flow and stops the other feeder streams entering the roundabout, causing long queues. This is a common problem across the UK and is solved quite simply by using traffic lights to control the feeder streams and prevent any one stream taking control. The traffic lights on most of the motorway junctions are a prime example of this. The other problem that St Mary's suffers from is tidal flow, with traffic pouring into Newport during the morning rush hour and out of Newport during the evening rush hour. This actually simplifies the solution because it is these peak period flows that are the cause of the asymmetric flow patterns. As most users would agree, St Mary's is just a normal roundabout for the rest of the day. All that is required to fix St Mary's roundabout problem is peak hour traffic lights to manage the flow, a solution widely adopted across the UK. A much cheaper solution that won't bring 15 months of misery to the island motorists.
And from Roger Fordham in Newport, vital service. The Isle of Wight Council's decision to close the island's mental health day centres. What do they propose to do with the vulnerable people who attend these centres? I myself attended Parklands at Cowes from 1994 to 2000, when I lived at a flat above what is now Ladbrokes Bookmakers. These centres helped me and I regained my confidence. I became chairman of the Mental Health Service User Group under the guidance of the manager, Lodi Brand. I brought together many vulnerable people who attended Parklands, Ribolo, Churchview and Avenues. I also had great support from Richard Priest, then the general manager of the Riverside Centre, who was able to get the then Mental Health Minister of the Labour government to attend a large meeting at Riverside for views to be put forward. I benefited from my time at the centres, and I've met some people who attend now and who are very worried as to how the proposed will affect them. I strongly oppose the action being considered.
From Dr. Guy Moore, Sandown. Many reasons we need a new rink. I hope the proposal for the new ice rink will come to fruition, and I congratulate the dedicated persons doing all the work to bring this about. I was surprised to see that according to your report in the County Press 2nd of the 8th 19, Sport England saw little evidence demonstrating the need for new facilities. I was a regular figure skater at the Rides rink from 2001, winning a gold medal in the championships of 2008 and featuring in Christmas ice shows. It was evident during these years what a huge contribution skating provides to islanders. Not only the successes in ice hockey, but also the synchro teams, including older folk, many of them well skilled in ice dance, all keeping fit with regular exercise. And there were competitions recognised by the National Ice Skating Association. As an announcer from time to time, I can vouch for the enthusiasm shown. The impetus of all this has propelled the synchro teams to continue with off-ice training, setting off to practice on ice at 4 a.m. on the mainland and still bringing medals back from far afield, to the credit of dedicated skaters, instructors and sponsors. However, the regular daily activity of skating and all the attractions of a local facility, with visits from schools and clubs from the mainland, is now lacking. Islanders would clearly benefit from having their own skating facilities, bringing people of all ages together in a beneficial, socialising atmosphere where there are clear goals to achieve in the various categories of this sport. Some of these young people have taken up skating and sport professionally. I haven't skated since the closure of the Ride facility.
And this from Christopher Bland in Shorewell. Coppins flyover is best solution. Why has the council made the decision to spend more than £9 million on St Mary's roundabout when any driver on this island knows perfectly well the problem is actually at Coppins Bridge? A simple, light traffic overpass link the Sandown and Cowes approach roads at Coppins Bridge would be much more effective than 8 sets of traffic lights at St Mary's, which would not be effective in the least. An overpass of this sort of design has been built before very successfully at the Hogarth roundabout on the M3 approaching Hammersmith. It was constructed 40 years ago to solve congestion problems very similar to those at Coppins Bridge. What the council proposes will not solve any problem. It is seeking to solve a problem that isn't there. But while the works are in progress, there will be 2 massive congestion problems at Coppins Bridge and at St Mary's, and which will probably amalgamate into one colossal traffic jam. When the work is finished, the current problem will still be there, in all likelihood to be joined by another at St Mary's roundabout that never existed before.
The name and address of this letter is supplied but withheld. Tree vandalism is sickening. I have just watched the news and seen the lovely people of Ethiopia have planted 350 million trees in a day. How fantastic is that? And then you drive along Mayfield Road in Ryde and see the upsetting sight of a beautiful newly planted young tree lying broken on the ground because some mindless person or persons decided it would be great fun to snap its trunk and kill it. What goes through their stupid minds? This is the second time this has happened within a few months.
Answers required from Hans Bromwich in Cowes. With regard to the front page story about the Isle of Wight hunt dogs attacking a woman, dog walker, and her pet, County Press 2007-19, I can fully understand many of the sentiments expressed in the comments section of the County Press online. It is clearly a highly emotive news story that is now in the public domain. My concern relates more to the police's action, or inaction, who first and foremost have a duty of care to protect the public. They need to now urgently explain themselves. For starters, it is true the injured parties were told not to speak to the media. Is this true? If so, by whom and at what level in the police force did this directive emanate from? Failure to offer a reasoned explanation is likely to result in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary becoming inundated with numerous official complaints from law-abiding and concerned members of the public. I very much hope the county press will be following up on the exclusive news story in the weeks to come.
From Wight Memories, Beating the Bounds in Newport. Newport was always known as the town where politics ruled. So with the introduction of the first Reform Act in 1832, that extended the voting rights to more than the normal handful of property owners, and there could at last be some opposition to the landed gentry who had dictated island life for so many years. However, in order to vote, it was essential to prove ownership of property or prove residency within the borough boundary. Where and how far, you might ask, did the borough boundary extend at that time? It strangely took in a part of Cowes, so some of those electors in that district suddenly became attractive to Newport's aspiring politicians. Under normal circumstances, a Newport councillor would not exchange the time of day with a Cowes resident, but with their entitlement to vote, they became neighbours it was nice to become acquainted with. It might cost them a couple of pints of beer, and they may have had to kiss a few babies, but a vote was a vote. For the record, in the parliamentary election of 1832, Sir Richard Simeon obtained 712 votes against his opponent, Mr Campbell's 112 votes, with a total of just 824 people getting to the polls. Around this time, boundary commissioners had come to the island to hear any protests made as to the validity of respected men, no women for nearly another 100 years, being entitled to vote. Via a letter to the local newspapers from Newport banker Mr Kirkpatrick, we gain an insight into those political machinations at this time. This gentleman stated he had objected to the names of many of the Conservative voters that appeared on the electoral lists. In response, Newport's then town clerk produced a mass of documentary evidence from the time of Edward IV, who had died in 1483, detailing the boundary perimeters, and produced various witnesses who swore to acts of jurisdiction, with a boundary line extending down the River Medina on both sides and out to the Brambles. Ultimately, the commissioners ignored Mr Kirkpatrick and decided in favour of the town clerk's interpretation. As a result, the Conservatives gained 8 votes out of what were called the river votes, that included a Mr Westmore of Middle Street, Gosport, who was a voter in Newport in respect of a mill he owned projecting out into the River Medina 2 miles from Newport, and of having a residence in Gosport that was within 7 miles of the East Buoy of the Brambles, 2 criteria that qualified him. Demonstrating the extent of Newport's boundaries at the time, a tradition and a report in the newspaper of 1784 described how the Mayor of Newport and his fellow councillors examined them from on board a yacht as far as that part called the Brambles at Cowes. It added, the yacht was well stocked with a good and ample supply of excellent wine. This tradition was usually performed on St Peter's Day, as had happened in 1723 when it was referred to as the water circuit. Even then, there was plenty to sustain those members, as a bill was later presented for payment to the council for mutton, bread, cheese and fish, as well as tobacco and pipes for smoking it, plus an entry for the wages of the watermen and boys who did the rowing. Like members of Parliament, councillors even then were not slow to claim their expenses. In April 1927, Newport's Mayor, Councillor William Blake, revived the tradition known as beating the bounds that had, at that time, not been done since 1842. Although he maintained it would provide an interesting and educational to the local school children, the Ministry of Education declined to agree, and only a token half a dozen boys from Node Hill and Barton schools were given permission to attend. This did not stop, however, the boys from the more elitist Free Grammar School in Lower St James's Street and those at Portland House Academy attending en masse. The rules of beating the bounds stated the boundary should be adhered to as near as possible, so when buildings, hedges, hayricks and streams intervened, planks and ladders were used to negotiate them. At one point, the town sergeant, who was the official beater, went up one side and down the other of an obstructing barn. Where a boundary stone was encountered, notable citizens were gently bumped 3 times upon it by 2 strong men. One such citizen to receive this treatment was Mr. Walter Wells in 1927, who for many years was the owner of God's Providence House, at the time sold crockery and china. When the time came to cross the River Medina at Fairley, 2 barges, suitably decorated for the occasion, took the participants across, while a group of grammar school boys beat the water with their withy sticks. The course then amounted to just a distance of around 6 miles. In 1958, Mayor George Bull decided to revive the custom, but by then Newport's boundary had been extended to a distance of 38 miles, and so the ceremony had to be extended over 2 days. George was one of Newport's more popular mayors, possibly because he was a locally born man, having come into this world while his parents lived in Field Place. Starting work in Dolby's leather shop in St James's Square, he later bought the premises and ran his own leather shop. The family still run a business in Newport High Street together with his grandson, Andrew.
And my view, this column is by Malcolm Mime, and the headline is "Bring on the beers, it's male bonding time." Last month a friend of mine invited me to go on his cricket club tour. It was only going to be for a few days, just the other side of the water. And as the weather forecast was good, and I was very much in a cricket mood following England's tremendous World Cup win, I thought to myself, why not? There appeared to be no hard and fast rule it was for a men-only trip, but it turned out it was indeed a men-only trip. It is my guess every one of the cricket team invited their wife or girlfriend along, and when they asked which other women were going, were told none, thus leading said wife or girlfriend stating they didn't want to be the only woman going and therefore declining the invite. And so off we went on our male bonding trip. If I'm honest, that's the real reason I went, and it's also the point of this column. I needed a fix of male company. At the risk of being accused of sexism, I've always believed men need regular fixes of all male company more than women need fixes of all female company. But perhaps that's not the case given the continued growth of feminism. Either way, we men love a bit of male bonding, especially in the guise of something like a cricket tour, rugby tour or stag weekend. As soon as the car ferry rope is untied, men on tour, however responsible we may be in our today lives as parents, employees or bosses, suddenly become 18 years old again. These trips aren't men trips at all, they are boy trips. Gone are the work suits or whatever is usually worn at home, and out come the silly tour t-shirts, usually with a ridiculous nickname on the back. Also, although it's only 9 a.m, out come the beers and a brightly coloured woman's hat, which one unlucky soul has to wear for making the silly mistake of holding their beer in their right hand. The right-handed drinker will probably have a fine to pay for this heinous crime too, and numerous other fines will be issued by the fines master throughout the tour. Anyway, to the tour itself. But alas no, unfortunately I'm unable to report what happened. Not because I got so intoxicated I can't remember, it's just that I have to respect a tradition that goes back to the beginning of time. What goes on tour stays on tour.
This is best plan for West Wight primaries. I agree with many of the points in Councillor Steve Cowley's letter, County Press 2nd of the 8th 19, over the future of Yarmouth and Freshwater primary schools. No one wants to see any of our 5 remaining precious West Wight schools close. However, in the current West Wight School Places consultation, we need to fix how we can manage a projected reduction of 30% in pupils in the next few years, itself a worrying result of low wages and market-led house building. Given the impoverished local education budget, something has to give. Since February, I have been part of a freshwater community group which examined all the possible options of federation or closure. Our recommendation, accepted by the Isle of Wight Council after the first round of consultation, was that the Shalfleet Yarmouth School Confederation should take over running the freshwater site, which is promised a multi-million-pound rebuild. Key to our recommendations was the fact the new school will be within walking distance for 60% of the West Wight's children, whereas only a handful of children living in Yarmouth attend Yarmouth School. During the second round of consultation, the Yarmouth community failed to come up with an alternative workable proposal. The formal judicial review against the Isle of Wight Council consultation, lodged at the end of July, will merely have the effect of delaying the whole process further. Staff are left in complete uncertainty as to whether they have jobs for a year or more. Parents do not know which uniform to purchase, and our tiniest schoolchildren are left uncertain over their future school. There has already been chronic uncertainty for all these people for the last 5 months, and the disruption of the rebuild could take another 2 years. We need to agree on a workable plan and a defined timetable so everyone knows what is going to happen to them. The Isle of Wight Council has a plan and process in place, and we need to follow this. The judicial review merely freezes the process. It should be dropped, and we should be allowed to reach a democratic consensus as soon as possible to end all this uncertainty.
And this is from Alec Penston in Shanklin. Wartime love still going strong. Early in December 1943, I was given a draft to join a boat in Scapa Flow. On arrival, I was told to join a First World War submarine dug up out of the mud at Chatham and brought into service as an escort to an Arctic convoy. When I said I'd not volunteered for subs, I was told, "Hard luck. You have now. Take it up with your drafting officer if we get back." Things did not improve when I was told to fill in a next of kin form. We sailed that night to escort a convoy on to Merkenmask. When we reached the Bear Island in the Arctic Ocean, we were told the German pocket ship Schnarlhorst had sailed from her lair with 3 destroyers as a backup to annihilate the ships we were escorting. As we were not fit for purpose, we were told to turn round and join a returning convoy to the UK. Back home I was given Christmas leave and arrived back in London, my hometown, early on Christmas Eve. My mother and young brother were evacuated and my older sister was working, so I had to scrounge Christmas dinner somewhere. I went to visit my aunt and was introduced to a young lady who was engaged to my cousin, also in the RN. I walked her home, and it was near where I was staying at my sister's. I was invited in and introduced to her lovely 17-year-old sister, who was opening in pantomime on Boxing Day. She agreed I could escort her there. Boxing Day came, and with a real London smog, and by the time I arrived at the young lady's house she had left, so I made my way to the stage door, and the keeper said, "Gladys told me to expect a sailor." For the next 4 days I was a stage door Johnny. We became engaged after I survived D-Day and 10 Arctic convoys. When VE Day came, I was kept at sea rounding up U-boats and before being given leave back to my girl. I hoped to be demobbed, but 5 hours after returning from leave, I was drafted to the Far East, so I asked our parents if we could marry as we were still classed as minors. I only had 5 days' leave when consent was given, but the vicar of our local church wanted 3 weeks to call the banns, and he advised us to see the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is another lovely story. But to finish the tale, we are now celebrating our 74th wedding anniversary. Our one and only child, our daughter Jacqueline, was born 17 years after our marriage.
From Roger Gaddis, Branston. Cheaper answer than lights plan. The Isle of Wight Council appears determined to pour a large sum of money, which it could make yet a better use of, into a major project to replace St Mary's roundabout with light-controlled junctions, when a simpler and cheaper scheme would cure the current peak hour congestion. The St Mary's roundabout suffers from a combination of two classic roundabout problems: asymmetric flow patterns and tidal flow. A roundabout works best with a symmetrical flow pattern when mutual interference between the traffic flows creates gaps in the traffic on the roundabout, allowing traffic to enter from the feeder streams. A problem occurs with an asymmetrical traffic flow pattern when a dominant feeder stream takes control of the flow and stops the other feeder streams entering the roundabout, causing long queues. This is a common problem across the UK and is solved quite simply by using traffic lights to control the feeder streams and prevent any one stream taking control. The traffic lights on most of the motorway junctions are a prime example of this. The other problem that St Mary's suffers from is tidal flow, with traffic pouring into Newport during the morning rush hour and out of Newport during the evening rush hour. This actually simplifies the solution because it is these peak period flows that are the cause of the asymmetric flow patterns. As most users would agree, St Mary's is just a normal roundabout for the rest of the day. All that is required to fix St Mary's roundabout problem is peak hour traffic lights to manage the flow, a solution widely adopted across the UK. A much cheaper solution that won't bring 15 months of misery to the island motorists.
And from Roger Fordham in Newport, vital service. The Isle of Wight Council's decision to close the island's mental health day centres. What do they propose to do with the vulnerable people who attend these centres? I myself attended Parklands at Cowes from 1994 to 2000, when I lived at a flat above what is now Ladbrokes Bookmakers. These centres helped me and I regained my confidence. I became chairman of the Mental Health Service User Group under the guidance of the manager, Lodi Brand. I brought together many vulnerable people who attended Parklands, Ribolo, Churchview and Avenues. I also had great support from Richard Priest, then the general manager of the Riverside Centre, who was able to get the then mental health minister of the Labour government to attend a large meeting at Riverside for views to be put forward. I benefited from my time at the centres, and I've met some people who attend now and who are very worried as to how the proposed will affect them. I strongly oppose the action being considered.
From Dr. Guy Moore, Sandown. Many reasons we need a new rink. I hope the proposal for the new ice rink will come to fruition, and I congratulate the dedicated persons doing all the work to bring this about. I was surprised to see that according to your report in the County Press 2nd of the 8th 19, Sport England saw little evidence demonstrating the need for new facilities. I was a regular figure skater at the Rides rink from 2001, winning a gold medal in the championships of 2008 and featuring in Christmas ice shows. It was evident during these years what a huge contribution skating provides to islanders. Not only the successes in ice hockey, but also the synchro teams, including older folk, many of them well skilled in ice dance, all keeping fit with regular exercise. And there were competitions recognised by the National Ice Skating Association. As an announcer from time to time, I can vouch for the enthusiasm shown. The impetus of all this has propelled the synchro teams to continue with off-ice training, setting off to practice on ice at 4 a.m. on the mainland and still bringing medals back from far afield, to the credit of dedicated skaters, instructors and sponsors. However, the regular daily activity of skating and all the attractions of a local facility, with visits from schools and clubs from the mainland, is now lacking. Islanders would clearly benefit from having their own skating facilities, bringing people of all ages together in a beneficial socialising atmosphere where there are clear goals to achieve in the various categories of this sport. Some of these young people have taken up skating and sport professionally. I haven't skated since the closure of the ride facility.
And this from Christopher Bland in Shorewell. Coppin's flyover is best solution. Why has the council made the decision to spend more than £9 million on St Mary's roundabout when any driver on this island knows perfectly well the problem is actually at Coppin's Bridge? A simple, light traffic overpass link the Sandown and Cowes approach roads at Coppin's Bridge would be much more effective than 8 sets of traffic lights at St Mary's, which would not be effective in the least. An overpass of this sort of design has been built before very successfully at the Hogarth roundabout on the M3 approaching Hammersmith. It was constructed 40 years ago to solve congestion problems very similar to those at Coppin's Bridge. What the council proposes will not solve any problem. It is seeking to solve a problem that isn't there. But while the works are in progress, there will be 2 massive congestion problems at Coppin's Bridge and at St Mary's, and which will probably amalgamate into one colossal traffic jam. When the work is finished, the current problem will still be there, in all likelihood to be joined by another at St Mary's roundabout that never existed before.
The name and address of this letter is supplied but withheld. Tree vandalism is sickening. I have just watched the news and seen the lovely people of Ethiopia have planted 350 million trees in a day. How fantastic is that? And then you drive along Mayfield Road in Ryde and see the upsetting sight of a beautiful newly planted young tree lying broken on the ground because some mindless person or persons decided it would be great fun to snap its trunk and kill it. What goes through their stupid minds? This is the second time this has happened within a few months.
Answers required from Hans Bromwich in Cowes. With regard to the front page story about the Isle of Wight hunt dogs attacking a woman, dog walker, and her pet, County Press 20/07/19, I can fully understand many of the sentiments expressed in the comments section of the County Press online. It is clearly a highly emotive news story that is now in the public domain. My concern relates more to the police's action, or inaction, who first and foremost have a duty of care to protect the public. They need to now urgently explain themselves. For starters, it is true the injured parties were told not to speak to the media. Is this true? If so, by whom and at what level in the police force did this directive emanate from? Failure to offer a reasoned explanation is likely to result in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary becoming inundated with numerous official complaints from law-abiding and concerned members of the public. I very much hope the county press will be following up on the exclusive news story in the weeks to come.
From Wight Memories, Beating the Bounds in Newport. Newport was always known as the town where politics ruled. So with the introduction of the first Reform Act in 1832, that extended the voting rights to more than the normal handful of property owners, and there could at last be some opposition to the landed gentry who had dictated island life for so many years. However, in order to vote, it was essential to prove ownership of property, or prove residency within the borough boundary. Where and how far, you might ask, did the borough boundary extend at that time? It strangely took in a part of cows, so some of those electors in that district suddenly became attractive to Newport's aspiring politicians. Under normal circumstances, a Newport councillor would not exchange the time of day with a cow's resident, but with their entitlement to vote, they became neighbours it was nice to become acquainted with. It might cost them a couple of pints of beer, and they may have had to kiss a few babies, but a vote was a vote. For the record, in the parliamentary election of 1832, Sir Richard Simeon obtained 712 votes against his opponent, Mr Campbell's 112 votes, with a total of just 824 people getting to the polls. Around this time, boundary commissioners had come to the island to hear any protests made as to the validity of respected men, no women for nearly another 100 years, being entitled to vote. Via a letter to the local newspapers from Newport banker Mr Kirkpatrick, we gain an insight into those political machinations at this time. This gentleman stated he had objected to the names of many of the Conservative voters that appeared on the electoral lists. In response, Newport's then town clerk produced a mass of documentary evidence from the time of Edward IV, who had died in 1483, detailing the boundary perimeters, and produced various witnesses who swore to acts of jurisdiction, with a boundary line extending down the River Medina on both sides and out to the brambles. Ultimately, the commissioners ignored Mr Kirkpatrick and decided in favour of the town clerk's interpretation. As a result, the Conservatives gained 8 votes out of what were called the river votes, that included a Mr Westmore of Middle Street, Gosport, who was a voter in Newport in respect of a mill he owned projecting out into the River Medina 2 miles from Newport, and of having a residence in Gosport that was within 7 miles of the east buoy of the Brambles, 2 criteria that qualified him. Demonstrating the extent of Newport's boundaries at the time, a tradition and a report in the newspaper of 1784 described how the Mayor of Newport and his fellow councillors examined them from on board a yacht as far as that part called the Brambles at Cowes. It added, the yacht was well stocked with a good and ample supply of excellent wine. This tradition was usually performed on St Peter's Day, as had happened in 1723 when it was referred to as the water circuit. Even then, there was plenty to sustain those members, as a bill was later presented for payment to the council for mutton, bread, cheese and fish, as well as tobacco and pipes for smoking it, plus an entry for the wages of the watermen and boys who did the rowing. Like members of Parliament, councillors even then were not slow to claim their expenses. In April 1927, Newport's Mayor, Councillor William Blake, revived the tradition known as beating the bounds that had, at that time, not been done since 1842. Although he maintained it would provide an interesting and educational to the local school children, the Ministry of Education declined to agree, and only a token 6 boys from Node Hill and Barton schools were given permission to attend. This did not stop, however, the boys from the more elitist Free Grammar School in Lower St James's Street and those at Portland House Academy attending en masse. The rules of beating the bounds stated the boundary should be adhered to as near as possible. So when buildings, hedges, hayricks and streams intervened, planks and ladders were used to negotiate them. At one point, the town sergeant, who was the official beater, went up one side and down the other of an obstructing barn. Where a boundary stone was encountered, notable citizens were gently bumped 3 times upon it by 2 strong men. One such citizen to receive this treatment was Mr. Walter Wells in 1927, who for many years was the owner of God's Providence House, at the time sold crockery and china. When the time came to cross the River Medina at Fairley, 2 barges, suitably decorated for the occasion, took the participants across, while a group of grammar school boys beat the water with their withy sticks. The course then amounted to just a distance of around 6 miles. In 1958, Mayor George Bull decided to revive the custom, but by then Newport's boundary had been extended to a distance of 38 miles, and so the ceremony had to be extended over 2 days. George was one of Newport's more popular mayors, possibly because he was a locally born man, having come into this world while his parents lived in Field Place. Starting work in Dolby's leather shop in St James's Square, he later bought the premises and ran his own leather shop. The family still run a business in Newport High Street together with his grandson, Andrew.
And my view, this column is by Malcolm Mime, and the headline is "Bring on the beers, it's male bonding time." Last month a friend of mine invited me to go on his cricket club tour. It was only going to be for a few days, just the other side of the water. And as the weather forecast was good, and I was very much in a cricket mood following England's tremendous World Cup win, I thought to myself, why not? There appeared to be no hard and fast rule it was for a men-only trip, but it turned out it was indeed a men-only trip. It is my guess every one of the cricket team invited their wife or girlfriend along, and when they asked which other women were going, were told none, thus leading said wife or girlfriend stating they didn't want to be the only woman going and therefore declining the invite. And so off we went on our male bonding trip. If I'm honest, that's the real reason I went, and it's also the point of this column. I needed a fix of male company. At the risk of being accused of sexism, I've always believed men need regular fixes of all male company more than women need fixes of all female company. But perhaps that's not the case given the continued growth of feminism. Either way, we men love a bit of male bonding, especially in the guise of something like a cricket tour, rugby tour or stag weekend. As soon as the car ferry rope is untied, men on tour, however responsible we may be in our today lives as parents, employees or bosses, suddenly become 18 years old again. These trips aren't men trips at all, they are boy trips. Gone are the work suits or whatever is usually worn at home, and out come the silly tour t-shirts, usually with a ridiculous nickname on the back. Also, although it's only 9 a.m, out come the beers and a brightly coloured woman's hat, which one unlucky soul has to wear for making the silly mistake of holding their beer in their right hand. The right-handed drinker will probably have a fine to pay for this heinous crime too, and numerous other fines will be issued by the fines master throughout the tour. Anyway, to the tour itself. But alas, no. Unfortunately, I'm unable to report what happened. Not because I got so intoxicated I can't remember. It's just that I have to respect a tradition that goes back to the beginning of time. What goes on tour stays on tour.
Sorry, I haven't got anything else to read now until 6.
I think, yeah, neither have I.
Oh, so should we just do 6
yeah,
then?
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Right,
it goes.
so-
there's
$1 Million Bash, remembering the 60s fests. Folk rock legend Richard Thompson has spoken about returning to play on the Isle of Wight for the first time in more than half a century. Thompson, who played the inaugural Isle of Wight Festival in 1968 as the lead guitarist in Fairport Convention, said he remains proud he helped lay the foundations for the then embryonic rock festival movement. Described by the Los Angeles Times as the finest rock songwriter after Dylan and the best electric guitarist since Hendrix, Thompson is to perform at the $1 Million Bash, a one-day event celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1969 festival, at the County Showground on Saturday, August the 31st. Thompson said, "Hard to believe it's more than 50 years since the first Isle of Wight festival. It was cold, ran hours behind schedule, and was nowhere near as glamorous as the following year, 1969. But the music was stellar, and we were proud to be a part of it." The upcoming bash will include Wishbone Ash, fellow Fairport Foundation member Ashley Hutchins, 1969 festival veterans Julie Felix, Jackie McShee's Pentangle, and the Pretty Things Phil May and Dick Taylor. Back in the day, Thompson only had eyes for Dylan, who had become a major influence on his career. Thompson said, "He's a very important figure culturally. He brought intelligent lyrics from folk into popular music and made the whole genre more grown up. Fairport were always a lyric band, and before we wrote ourselves, we were covering Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, Phil Ochs and Dylan. Without Bob, the Beatles would never have tackled serious subjects. You would have no Radiohead, no Kate Bush, no PJ Harvey, and so on. Dylan opened the door for me and others. His influence is indisputable." Thompson, 70, said, "If you love music, you want to play as long as you can, so you try to stay fit and mobile and keep the important bits, fingers, voice, in working order." Tickets are available from allwhitenow.com or discounted from that 60s place in Cowes and Dimbola Museum. Bob Dylan has sent a special previously unpublished poem to the Isle of Wight, 50 years after his legendary appearance at the 1969 Isle of Wight Festival. He sent the words exclusively to the $1 Million Bash event, which will honour the anniversary. The remarkable gesture means a previously unpublished and unheard Dylan composition will be read at the event. Dylan famously turned his back on the Woodstock Festival in 1969 to perform on the Isle of Wight instead to 150,000 fans. Dylan made contact with Bash curator Ashley Hutchins, a founder member of Fairport Convention, to pass on the poem and acknowledge the event. Ashley said, "He passed me a special poem, fittingly something he wrote about 50 years ago, for me to read out. It's going to be a great celebration."
A list of forthcoming events at Shanklin Theatre for the rest of August and for the first part of September. And the box office telephone number is 01983 868 000. Starting on August, Wednesday the 14th, you've got Fab Beatles at 7:30. On Thursday the 15th, Beyond the West End at 8:15. And Saturday the 17th, ABBA reunion at 7:30. On Thursday, 22nd, Beyond the West End at 8:15. And the Islands Savoyards present Sister Act, and that goes on for 4 days. On Friday the 23rd and Saturday the 24th, Sister Act is at 7:30. And then on Sunday the 25th, you've got it twice, Sister Act is at 2:30 and 7:30. And finally, Sister Act is on Monday the 26th, again at 7:30. On Thursday the 29th, Beyond the West End at 8:15. On Saturday the 31st, Quadrophenia, the album live at 7:30. We move into September on Wednesday the 4th and on Thursday the 5th, both at 8:15, Beyond the West End. Friday the 6th, Rob Beckett, Work in Progress at 8 o'clock. Wednesday the 11th and Thursday the 12th, it's Beyond the West End again, both at 8:15. And then on Sunday the 15th, Nocturne, Lucy Parnham. And I repeat, the box office telephone number for that is 01983 868 000.
This is the County Press local news for South and West. That's Sandown, Shanklin, Ventnor, Brading, Freshwater, Yarmouth, Totland and Branston. The Shanklin Town Beach Regatta, a free fun day on the beach and esplanade, takes place on Thursday. Shore Sports, Regatta Queen, Bathing Beauty Contest, Sandcastle and art competitions, helicopter search and rescue display, and a grand fireworks display at dusk, followed by a barbecue and evening entertainment. Action on hearing loss will be at Grove House Surgery, Ventnor, on Wednesday between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. for its monthly drop-in. Come along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For more information, call 529 533. The MS Charity Shop in Regent Street, Shanklin, is holding a summer raffle with lots of prizes and hampers up for grabs. The draw will be held at 2:30 p.m. on August the 31st. Tickets cost £1 and are available from the shop. Brading Men in Sheds meet on Thursday 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Brading Youth Club. Everyone welcome to make things, learn things and drink tea. Sheila Cause will give a talk entitled A Gentleman's Tour of the Isle of Wight at the Archaeological Discovery Centre, Fort Victoria, on Wednesday 7 p.m. for 7:30. She will take a look back at the island through the photographs of Fernão de Castelo Branco, who lived here between 1930 and 1970. £5 entry. To book, call 761214. West Wight Time Bank have launched an environmentally friendly mobile refill station for washing up liquid, laundry liquid, shampoo, conditioner, hand wash and multi-purpose cleaner at St Saviour's Holy Family Centre, Totland, on the first Friday of the month, 11 a.m. to noon, at Freshwater Coffee House on the third Wednesday of the month, 2 till 4 p.m, and West Wight Sports and Community Centre on the last Thursday of the month, 10 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. Bring a clean bottle for a refill, competitive prices. Static tours will be held aboard the Yarmouth RNLI lifeboat at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. each Tuesday and Thursday until September the 12th, weather and operational requirements permitting. Join a team member on Yarmouth Quay. A crafts and giftware market will be held at the Wilberforce Hall, Branston, each Thursday throughout the summer between 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Stalls include local scenic photography, knitted baby clothes, hand-painted gift boxes, greeting cards, hand-painted waistcoats, contemporary artwork, knitted blankets and bags. Refreshments are available. Freshwater Short Mat Bowls Club has vacancies for anyone interested in playing. The club meets at Freshwater Memorial Hall every Thursday between 1:30 p.m. and 4:15 p.m. with tea or coffee. The club also welcomes players from other clubs to a friendly match or to come along individually. For details, call Teresa Curtis on 753457. Sorry. It's a bit mad all that night, isn't it? Yeah. Where are we? Okay. The Really Useful Cafe meets at West Wight Sports and Community Centre each Thursday, 10 a.m. to noon. Make new friends over a cuppa and enjoy fun activities. An indoor market is held each Friday at Freshwater Memorial Hall, 8:30 a.m. to noon. Handmade cakes, bric-a-brac, plants, Avon, book puzzles, produce, collectibles, greeting cards from 50p, jewellery, Isle of Wight gifts, soft furnishings, large and small toys, and household items. Refreshments are available. A defibrillator has been installed at Pedalo's Cafe, Newchurch, in memory of Alan Paul, a member of the Wayfarers Cycling Touring Club. Club members presented the equipment to the cafe owners Emma and Dave Hughes after it was purchased with donations from the Randonees, the Paul family and the cafe.
And now we move on to North, Central and East Wight, which covers the area of Cowes, East Cowes, Ryde, Newport, Wootton, Arraton, Bembridge, St Helens and Seaview. First of all, North Wight. Join staff from Arraton Barnes Shipwreck Centre and Maritime Museum at Cowes Library on Monday 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. See how archaeologists work under the water. Try on dive kit and see real shipwreck artefacts. £2 per child. Suitable for children aged 6 and over. A great session for budding archaeologists and divers. Events will be held at St Mary's Church, Cowes during Cowes Week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. There will be lunchtime concerts at noon on the Monday and Thursday, lunches and refreshments every day, and collectibles, books and art for sale. There'll be a Friends of the Animals quiz, and this will be held at the Folly Inn, Whippingham at 7:45 on Tuesday. £3 per person. There'll also be a raffle. There will be no Cowes Alzheimer Cafe in August. The Elephant Club will be held on Thursday in the Garden Rooms at All Saints Church, Gurnard, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. A free group activity designed to exercise your memory muscles. Tea and biscuits are available. Coffee and chat mornings are held every Thursday at East Cowes Methodist Church from 10 a.m. to noon. The Whippingham Church Village Show will be held on Monday, August the 26th from noon until 3 p.m. Entry forms are available at the coffee shop. St James's Church, East Cowes, will hold its 25th Jigsaw Puzzle Festival from Monday until next Saturday, August the 17th. Open daily from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday and Thursday. There will be puzzles for sale and refreshments available. Entry £1, free for children accompanied by an adult. On Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The food bank in Cowes is open. Clients may receive food on presentation of a voucher. Donations can be received from the public. The Sing About, the music therapy group, meets on Thursdays at 2 p.m. at St James's Church, East Cowes. And finally from North Wight, an art and craft group meets every Thursday in the parish room at St Mary's Church, Cowes, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Knitting, croquet, art, card making, tapestry, quilting and more. All welcome to join this friendly group, and it's £1.50 per session. Call Heather on 298 851 or just pop in. Move on now to East Wight. Action on hearing loss will be at Wootton Community Centre, Brannon Way, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. next Thursday, that's August the 15th, and Ryde Methodist Church, Garfield Road, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. next Friday, August the 16th, for its monthly drop-in and coffee mornings. Come along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. Free hearing checks and sensory equipment demonstrations will also be offered at Ryde Library, George Street, between 10 a.m. and noon next Friday, August the 16th. No appointment necessary. For more information, call 529 533. And St Helens Horticultural Society will hold its summer show on Wednesday in the Marquee on the Green, starting at 2:30 p.m. Refreshments will be available in the community centre and prize giving will be at 4:30 p.m. The deadline for entries is 6 p.m. Monday. Schedules can be collected from the post office. Ryde Social Heritage Group hosts an insect walk led by Richard Smout at Ryde Cemetery on Tuesday. Walkers will meet at Ryde Heritage Centre at 10:45 a.m. for an 11 a.m. start. Light refreshments will be available. The East Wight Photographic Group meets at 2 p.m. at St Helens Community Centre next Friday, August the 16th. New members are welcome. More information can be found at ewpg.co.uk, and that's all in lowercase or in small letters. And at Seaview Fun Choir, this meets every Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30 at the Undercroft St Peter's Church. Sessions cost £2 to cover the cost of refreshments. For more information, call Wendy on 716 120 or 7413 028 326. The Isle of Wight branch of the Royal Naval Association meets on Tuesday at the Simeon Arms Ryde from 7:30 p.m. Shipmates are invited to come along for a noggin and a natter. For details, contact Dave Brown on 617 754. Thursday bazaars take place every week at Bembridge Village Hall from 9 a.m. until noon, with homemade jams, cakes, knitwear and other crafts on offer. Refreshments are available. And the circuit training, this takes place on Mondays and Thursdays at Nettleston Primary School between 6:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. and it's £5 per class. All fitness levels are welcome. Participants aged 16 years plus. Bembridge Community Library holds knitting and colouring sessions every Friday afternoon. Bring your own knitting or just come along for company and a chat. Sessions cost £3, including refreshments. An information point drop-in takes place for Citizens Advice in Isle of Wight and Aspire Road, Dover Street, between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Wednesday. During the drop-in, advisors will help you to decide the way forward, which may include making a further appointment, either face-to-face or over the phone, open to all members of the community. And finally, Central Wight, just 2 items here. Club Dance Pegasus have beginner level ballroom and Latin dance classes every Tuesday evening at the Riverside Centre, Newport, followed by improver level, which include instruction and practice time. Intermediate classes are held on Thursday evenings. Come on your own or with a group of friends. Large dance floor, qualified dancers, instructors and licensed bar. For more information, telephone 861 488. And finally, from Central Wight, Newport Illuminated Carnival will be held on Thursday, August 22nd, starting at Church Lytton at 9 p.m.
Potatoes are presents from the fragrant soil. Christmas used to come in May to our household, continue for a few months and then resume in December. The reason? Potatoes. My children loved unwrapping the presents from the earth, loving the petrichor after rain and never knowing exactly what presents they were going to find in the fragrant good earth. That is both the delight and the frustration of it. You plant identical seed spuds in the same ground and some produce a brilliant yield while a neighbour is hardly worth the space. Sunday brought back heady memories of happy times past with the harvest of my tub spuds. I had experimented with 2 varieties and planted different quantities of tubers. In one old-style repurposed recycling bin, 2 leftover desiree spuds went in, and 5 cheap wilgia from a pound shop were planted in the other. Chittings took place in early February. They were popped into rich compost 3 weeks later and were above the surface by the end of that month. Because the tubs were in the warmth of the greenhouse, the whole process could have started several weeks earlier. And if I'd used early varieties, we could have had the new potatoes on the table before Jersey Royals were in the shops. After taking the tubs outside, when foliage outgrew the indoor space, I was able to finish off topping up the tubs ready for the harvest of perfect potatoes. And the yield? Exactly the same, about £7 from each tub. Top tips. August is the last calendar month of summer, and there is much to do. It's a good time to plan ahead for next year when plants are in leaf and bloom. Take lots of photographs of your garden if you want to rearrange things over the winter. Think about which bulbs you would like to see blooming next spring. Now is the time to order ready for autumn planting. Ensure top-heavy dahlias are staked to prevent damage. Water camellias and rhododendrons thoroughly this month to make sure next year's buds, which determine flowering, develop well. Now is a good time to think about Christmas and new potatoes with that special lunch. You can plant up a tub now and enjoy unwrapping your spuds at Christmas time.
J. Miller's Circus. Win tickets for the greatest show. Roll up and win tickets to J. Miller's Circus. The popular circus is offering the chance for 6 families to win tickets to see the show before it leaves the Isle of Wight on Sunday, the 1st of September. There is a new ringmaster this year, Laszlo, who was born into the famous Hungarian, I hope I can pronounce this right, Sklingsloff circus family. He is the 5th generation of performers in the family. Because the circus comes to the outskirts of Newport each year, it incorporates lots of new themes to keep it fresh, and this year is no exception, kicking off with a Mary Poppins tribute. However, one of the familiar faces back again is Peppy the clown, who is still causing havoc whenever he appears in the ring. One of the most heart-in-the-mouth acts is the spectacular finale, which sees performers Thomas and Colette Salsky take to a giant fast-moving wheel high up over the ring. Those in the ringside seats will feel the most vulnerable. Another amazing feat is the performance of Miss Chloe Jane, who spins around in mid-air supported by her hair alone. Not only that, she adds fire to the act to make it even more exciting. A new act, not seen at J. Miller's Circus before, is musical art using sand to create images of circus scenes accompanied by a rock guitarist. There's also hula hooping, acrobatics on the chandelier, a balancing act, and rolling globes, making it a high-quality show not to be missed. The county press has teamed up with J. Miller's Circus to give readers the chance to win tickets. For your chance to win a family ticket for 4 people, 6 family tickets are up for grabs. Simply email your contact details to us at, and this once again is in small lowercase letters, competition iwcp.co.uk. That's all in lowercase print, by Thursday, August the 15th. Or alternatively, you can post your entry or drop it into us at Circus Competition, Isle of Wight County Press, Brannan House, 123 Pyle Street, Newport, Isle of Wight, PO 301ST. Good luck to all the entrants.
Garlic Festival. Win Garlic Festival family ticket. Can you smell the excitement? It's nearly time for the annual Garlic Festival, and the event organisers have teamed up with the county press to offer one lucky reader the chance to win a family ticket. The winner will scoop free tickets for 2 adults and 2 children to enter for free. For a chance to win, simply email your contact details, including a phone number, to garlicfestival@iwcp.co.uk, that's lowercase garlic festival, etc., by Thursday, August the 15th. Alternatively, post your entry to Garlic Festival Competition, County Press, Banyan House, 123 Pyle Street, Newport, IW, PO 31ST. The Garlic Festival takes place at its usual spot near Newchurch on August the 17th and 18th. At the heart of the festival is, of course, Britain's most loved and pungent bulb, garlic, grown on the Isle of Wight by the multi-award-winning Garlic Farm. Visitors will find it everywhere, to eat, drink and buy. Try out the black garlic Bloody Mary, or the garlic beer, available in cask. In the festival theatre kitchen will be the island's very own Michelin-starred chef Robert Thompson, who will be cooking and talking seasonal produce. In addition to the garlic, there will be cute and cuddly animals, NFU Roadshow, the Hog Show featuring Snoop Hoggy Hog, arena fun and games, a variety of stalls and a large marquee full of makers and businesses. There will be Greatest Showman sing-along parties, magic shows and a traditional Punch and Judy show, plus free arts and crafts. The sweet corn roast will be run by the Wave Project Isle of Wight, raising money for its surf club. There is also live music on the big stage, including former Rod Stewart guitarist Jim Cregan on the Saturday, and ex-Drifters member vocalist Roy G. Hemmings and his Motown show on the Sunday. Also, look out for Baggy Wrinkles Blue Band, Scare D for Life, 555s, X-Directory and Blackfoot Daisy.
And a news item here, and this headline comes in inverted commas, and the headline is that curfew after Hollyoaks? Appearing in court for assault and drug possession and given a curfew banning him from going out at night, the man asked, is that before or after The Simpsons, or Hollyoaks? Richard Hall, 25, of West Street Ryde, who was sentenced at the Isle of Wight Crown Court, had admitted assaulting a taxi driver and cannabis possession at a previous hearing. He was given a 3-month curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and ordered to complete 100 hours of unpaid work. Hall asked the judge when the curfew would come into effect and whether it was after The Simpsons or Hollyoaks. Following a discussion among the barristers, Rose Burns, prosecuting, confirmed, yes, your curfew comes after Hollyoaks.
That's all for this morning. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye from Den.
And goodbye from Leicester.
Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, the heart of the island's community.
We have our lovely Chris Kane here from Sight for Wight.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yes.
Good. Haven't had you in for a while.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yes. I've been sort of busy
doing other things.
I mean, there's stuff going on. So is it busy up there at the?
Yeah, we're getting busy now. Yeah, now the summer's upon us. Although today, weather-wise, is questionable, but we won't talk about that.
You always get the odd glitch, don't you?
You do.
Should be back to normal tomorrow.
Yeah, but the plants will appreciate the.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's Maggie's fault. She watered our garden last night.
Oh, that's your fault.
It's my fault. Yeah.
Yeah, you were out there with a hose last night getting everything.
That's why we had
wet.
a monsoon today. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it stands to reason to put more water into the atmosphere because it evaporates from the gold. It's going to come back down again.
There you go.
It's a scientific fact.
Okay.
Anyway, we get off the point. What have you got for us, Chris?
Well, it's a number of bits and pieces, really. I mean, I want to talk about some of the shows we're going to be going to, but I do want to tell you about our brand new. We've got some new Sight for Wight banners.
Oh,
yeah. So if you happen to be driving along Carisbrooke Road, we've got 3 banners. We're not obviously having all 3 up at once, but we've got one that says "Protect Your Sight" and actually features one of our staff, Laura, her daughter's in that, wearing our sunglasses.
Right.
We've got a volunteer poster. Join our volunteer team.
Right.
And we've got a sort of generic members banner. They're sort of 7 foot long. So you can't miss them.
No, okay, on that fence.
Yes,
Yes.
along the Carisbrook Road. So look out for them. So we're very pleased with those. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very nice too.
Yeah, the site for White headquarters is a bit odd, isn't it? I don't mean it's odd, but it's odd in terms of its address.
It is, yes, it is, because we've got kind of two postcodes really. We've got the main road, the Carisbrook Road 1DD postcode, but then if you want to come, we have a car park along Castle Road, so we have to give a different postcode. Which is
Otherwise, you end
1DD.
up going round and round forever.
You do.
We don't want to be doing that.
You don't want to be doing that.
But it's on the fence on the Carisbrook Road. You're going to put these posts.
Yes, it is.
Excellent
Already
stuff.
up. So we're
Of course.
rotating those on a 28-day basis so that everyone gets to see them.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm pleased about that. Can I chat a bit more? Or are we going into the news?
We just give us another minute or so, and then we'll head off to the news.
Okay. Just to say that we are doing our annual raffle. We normally do it as a Christmas raffle, but this year it's a summer raffle.
Oh, right.
So we are selling raffle tickets from now up until, and the draw will be on the 31st of October.
Okay.
So you'll see us out and about at shows, the Chow Show, Wolverton, Fantasy Con, pound a ticket. And we have some amazing prizes, including £100 cash, £50 Dress for Less voucher, a luxury hamper, and much more.
Oh.
Ah.
There's always much more.
It's on that
Can
band.
we win Chris?
I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm good at washing up.
Okay.
So's our dishwasher. Mate. It's that old joke, isn't it? Where's your dishwasher? It's his day off.
And we still have the lovely Chris here.
We do. Thank you for staying, Chris.
My pleasure.
I see a picture of a Dalek.
You can see a picture of a Dalek.
Intriguing.
Yes.
You've spoken about some of the things you've got coming up. You've got some more coming up. haven't you?
Yes, I would like to mention a new event we've got coming up on the 31st of October. We're doing a murder mystery event.
Ooh.
And we're calling it, originally, Murder at Millbrook House.
Ah.
Murder at Millbrook House.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, so we're very excited about this. We are selling tickets at £10 a head. That does include a very simple 2-course supper. We throw in a glass of wine.
What, literally? Here you go. Yep.
Yeah. Well, but who knows about the wine, you see? It could be part of the...
It could be poisoned.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But if anyone is interested, then please get in touch with me. So it's a first come, first served basis, so tickets will sell fast. It hasn't been officially... Well, apart from now, I've just officially announced that it's...
You have announced it. You heard
That's
it here
it.
first.
You
Yeah.
heard it here first. So
How do people get in touch with you to get tickets?
contact myself or any of the team at Millbrook House on 522205, or you can email me admin@iwsb.org.uk.
Okay, excellent stuff. So, what was the date of that again?
31st of October.
And what day is that?
It's a Thursday.
A Thursday. Thursday the 31st. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent stuff.
Yes. Also, quickly,
Yep.
I always have so much to say when I come
Please
on.
carry on.
Just to let you know where we're going to be out and about this summer.
Right.
We did do Pride last a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Which was okay. You know, the weather eventually brightened up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was quite a fun sort of day.
Yeah.
Really. This weekend we will be at the Chail Show.
Oh,
right.
yes.
Yes. So if anyone's going, please come along and say hello. I will be this Sunday morning. So we'll be selling our sunglasses, and we've got a brand new tombola game, a pegboard,
Ooh.
which has our logo, our eye logo, and you pull out a peg and you could win a really good prize.
What, another eye?
No. Yeah.
I know the thing. I haven't seen one of those for years.
Yeah.
The pegboard type.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, right.
So we're very excited about that. So yeah, come along and have a go. So that's fun there.
Right.
I will be at Fantasy Con on the 24th and 25th
Wow,
of
that doesn't
August
surprise me in the least.
with
somehow.
a certain Dalek.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun event. So
We've got someone coming in to talk about that in a week or two.
oh really?
We have,
Oh, you must
yes.
let me. It's Adam. Is it Adam?
I'll just check
Might
that
be
when you
Adam.
carry on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be interested to
So is
listen
that
to
Dave the Dalek?
No, he's just called Dalek.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was very popular last year.
I'm sure he was,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. There's
Yes.
lots of
It is Adam Peterson.
Yes,
Adam Pearson.
Pearson, yes,
Adam
I know
Pearson.
Adam, yeah.
Who is coming in not next week, but the week after.
Oh, okay.
The 13th.
I will be tuning in. Yes.
I think he's going to be on the phone.
Oh,
not coming.
phone, yeah, okay, yeah.
Talk about Fantasy Con, but you're going to be there with a Dalek.
I'll be there with the Dalek.
Does the Dalek
yeah.
have the Sight for White logo on it?
He could have. He could have.
But
yes.
he may not.
He did wear one of our Sight for White sashes last year. Looked very fetching.
Yes.
I was just trying to think. Daleks don't have shoulders or such.
Well, it wasn't easy to keep it on, to be fair.
Especially as he kept fidgeting.
So that's that. And then we'll be doing the Wolverton show on 31st of August and 1st of September.
Was that the flower and garden
yeah,
show?
That's usually
thing?
quite popular, that one.
Yeah, so so please come say hello if you're heading to any of those shows.
And do buy some of the sunglasses because they're really very good.
They are
Please
good.
do.
They will fit over your ordinary glasses if you wear
They're
them. I
black
do.
ones, white ones, blue ones and red ones,
That's
I
correct.
seem to recall.
And also, see more information.
Dun,
We
dun,
are
dun.
doing a sunglasses competition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy our sunglasses,
Yeah.
then if you have your photo taken wearing our sunglasses with, say, an unusual background, something really different, it might be standing with a Dalek or something,
Yeah.
and you can then enter it into our competition again to win some prizes.
And that's on the website, is it?
That's on the website as well, yeah.
iwsb.org.uk.
Yeah.
So does the Dalek wear a sunglass?
Hey,
He's only got one eye, hasn't he?
yes, I suppose he would wear a sunglass. Yes, yes. So that's that. What else? I've got so much. Yes, so just to remind you of how much our sunglasses are.
Well,
it's-
they're vastly expensive, aren't they?
shockingly expensive.
Yeah.
£3 a pair or 2 for a £5.
Ah,
You know.
Well, the reason we like them is because we bought a couple of sets of pairs, and then we've got a couple in my van, a couple in Maggie's car, so there's always enough sunglasses to go round, no
Yes.
matter whose vehicle you're in.
And they are proper UV filter 400
They are.
Oh, yes.
glasses. So
And they're quite lightweight too,
do
to be
protect
fair.
your
Yeah.
eyes. Mm.
Very good.
And have I got time to mention one more thing?
Go on then.
Go on in.
I'll touch on it more next month, but
okay.
we're talking about this short story writing competition.
Yes.
Yes, so we're going to have a slight difference.
That's happening again.
It is happening again, but that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, we'll keep you on the
Yes.
hooks attentive for that.
Oh,
for a bit.
Yes.
And, well, thank you for coming in, Chris.
Thank you for asking me again.
And,
Always a pleasure to see
If
you.
you've got want any more details, we will put this interview up on our homepage, on Facebook, our website, and then we'll also give your contact details out again, admin@iwsb.org.uk, or
52220 something.
Yeah, 52205.
52205.
Nearly.
You were good.
Very good.
Your support matters. We operate thanks to the support of local businesses. If you would like to advertise on Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, contact our team today. marketing@vectisradio.fm.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Tonight, why blind patients still struggle to keep their health data confidential. And the festival which shows what's possible for visually impaired children, which is pretty well anything.
I'm running with the ball towards the defender. I'm waiting for a clap from my teammate. She's now clapped, so I'm going to throw the ball back.
More from a weekend of fun in Hereford later in the programme. And something else that's possible, getting your ideas discussed on the programme. Just a few days ago, Christina Keeler got in touch with an issue she thought needed to be aired. Today, she's our guest on the programme, joining us from Brighton. In a nutshell, Christina, what do you think we've been missing?
Well, I have a severe visual impairment and a hearing condition on top of that. And I'm interested in how other people experience being affected both by visual and hearing issues, and how we can manage this combination well.
Well, you couldn't have been more succinct, Christina. We'll hear more from you about that in a few moments. But first, 3 years ago this week, a standard was introduced by NHS England which promised visually impaired people the right to receive information such as test results, appointments, etc. in their preferred formats. It followed constant complaints, many of them to this programme, saying that despite repeated requests to have information in a form they could read, braille, large print, texts, emails, there are plenty of options, they continued to get print letters totally inaccessible to them. And the trouble is, despite that new standard, it's still happening. Well, now Michael Tupper from Clitheroe has had enough, and with help from the RNIB, he's making a stand.
For a number of years now, since the accessible information came into force on the 1st of August 2016, I have been asking East Lancs Hospital Trust to send my correspondence to me in a format which I require, which is large print. Every time I get a letter from them, it usually turns up in standard print. Occasionally they'll come up with a large print version, but on the majority of occasions it's standard print.
What are the implications of this as far as you're concerned? I mean, for example, how feasible would it be to get someone to read these letters to you?
That's fair enough. I can understand that I could get people to read them to me, but some of the letters contain very delicate information. I have urology problems, bowel problems. If I have to start passing them around for people to read them, that's giving sort of information to people about my personal bits and pieces, and I'm not in the position or don't wish to do that with anybody. I can just about read the letters with a magnifier, but if depends what style of print it's in to start off with. If it was all in Arial 14, it wouldn't probably be quite so bad, but most of it comes in very, very thin print. And when there's telephone numbers or times and dates to read, if there's a 6 or a 9 or a 5 or an 8, I have a problem distinguishing those numbers particularly, and I could get the dates wrong. It would mean that I could miss an appointment and the pressures in my eyes could increase.
And that's part of the irony of this, that some of these communications have come from the eye department.
And the majority of them have come from the ophthalmology department. You're perfectly correct, which, as you say, is quite ironic. I mean, of all departments you would expect to get it right, it would be them. And the Hospital Trust actually did the pilot scheme for the accessible information standard to come in prior to it coming in, and I worked with the diversity and equality manager there to set the whole thing up. One of their urology receptionists managed to find a way to do it, so I thought the problem was solved, but it obviously hasn't been solved because I'm still getting them in standard print.
What does the Hospital Trust say when you put this to them?
Every time I mention it, they usually turn around and say, yes, we'll try and do our best to send it out to you in large print as you requested.
Let me bring in Sam Fothergill, who is the RNIB's legal advisor. First of all, in this case, what are Michael's and other blind people's rights precisely?
Under the Equality Act, you have a right to receive your information in an accessible format. That's been since 2010.
So in a way, was the accessible information standard necessary if that was the law?
Well, I think it was necessary because we found that the majority of NHS organisations weren't complying. And so we thought that by getting the accessible information standard, that would almost force them into it.
So that rule of accessibility, does that mean that a visually impaired patient can have the information in any form they want? I mean, some solutions are easier than others for an organisation to comply with.
Well, the NHS bodies only have to do what's reasonable, but the majority of people will want pretty standard formats, so Braille, large print, email, audio.
So in terms of enlarging print, as Michael wants, can you see a problem from that point of view?
Not at all, no. It's just the Trust not having the processes in place to actually do it, I think, is what the problem is.
What has the East Lancashire Hospital Trust said to you about this? Because I think you have approached them about it.
Yeah, we obviously wrote to them before we issued proceedings, but I think that they didn't really acknowledge that they had a problem. They told us that the files were all marked up and therefore it would happen, and obviously it clearly didn't. And after we got that letter from them saying everything was fine, Mike then received a series of inaccessible letters, and so we felt we had no choice but to issue proceedings to kind of force the issue and to make sure that something gets done about it.
So the information standard, the accessible information standard, clearly hasn't been working as far as Mike's concerned, but it's been in operation for 3 years. Is it working generally, do you think?
I think the answer is no. We get a lot of complaints about accessible health information. I'd say it's probably the largest category of complaint that we receive within our department, which is the Policy and Campaigns team.
Well, we naturally invited the East Lancs NHS Hospital Trust to appear on the programme. They weren't able to put anyone up, but they did say it's their aim to implement the Accessible Information Standard, but on some occasions, and I quote, our administrative processes haven't worked as they should. They say we'd like to offer an apology to Mr Tupper and any other of our patients who may have suffered inconvenience through receiving information in a form not suitable for their needs. We've talked since to the RNIB and Michael Tupper. They say this doesn't go far enough. Well, I guess Christina Keeler was listening to that. Your issue that you want to raise with us is health related. So before we get to it, what's been your experience of getting accessible information from the NHS?
Well, I have to say that I have requested letters in large print from my local university hospital, and I do get large print letters, so I'm very happy with that.
Which proves it can be done, I guess. Christina, just explain a bit more, first of all, about your own circumstances, because you weren't actually born here, were you?
No, I am Danish.
Right, and so you came over here, and this problem that you're raising with this of dual disability, how did it come about?
Well, I came over here about 20 years ago, actually, just this week. And about 17 years ago, I went to a concert where there was some dancing, and someone was really nice and suggested I should sit at the front, which was great. The only thing was that I was sitting next to the speaker, and unfortunately it resulted in, I've now got a hearing condition that's called hyperacusis, so I'm very sensitive to noise.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's not actually so much about hearing levels that you've lost as about sensitivity.
Yes.
So what does that result in? What are the effects of that?
Basically, it means that any loud noises are difficult for me to tolerate. So any loud noises like in restaurants or from traffic or music is an issue for me now.
I mean, do you have to avoid those places? How do you deal with that?
Well, I've found my own way of dealing with it. It's a very rare disease or a very rare condition.
But the point that you really wanted to make was that this is a dual disability.
Yes.
And double disability makes it complicated, trying to weave it in with visual impairment.
Absolutely. So it's trying to manage your visual impairments and then at the same trying to manage the hearing impairment.
How much is it about how people react? I mean, is it that people in a way can only see one disability at a time, as it were?
Yes, I try to keep it very simple when I try to explain my conditions and try to focus on one rather than focus on both of them. And I think some people experience with age that they've been able to live with their visual impairment and found ways of managing that. And then creeping in on top of that can come a hearing impairment. I mean, mine came very suddenly and I had to adapt to that quite quickly.
We're certainly inviting people who've had experience of this to get in touch with us, which I think is what you wanted. Do stay with us for our last item as well. Most summer fetes and festivals try to lay on entertainment to keep the kids amused, but a lot of the activities will be visual, throwing things, shooting at things, which tend to exclude blind children who go along with their families. Not so Lookfest. The rule there is the absolute reverse. Everything from sport to arts to building a den must be accessible. Look is an organisation for families with a child with a visual impairment. Lucy Edwards went along for us to join in the Lookfest fun.
1, 2, 3.
Let's get festival ready. I'm here at Lookfest in Hereford, the first summer event for VI families. The atmosphere is so great, it's lively, there's tents pitched up, families ready to spend their weekends here. It's a brand new event, I'm ready to see what it's all about and join in.
So I grab a stick, I put it on the...
I've just arrived at the first activity of the day, den making in the woods, and there's loads of mud huts around me, and the families are gathered in a central area learning from a Look mentor how to make a den. So I'm just going to go and chat to some of them to see how they're enjoying it.
My name's Ellie and this is my sister Kira.
Lovely. And what about Mum and Dad?
So I'm
Mummy
Chris
Daddy.
Clark. I'm
Where's
Dad.
Mummy's Kay?
And I'm Kate. What would you usually be doing on a Saturday?
Going to football.
And is Lookfest something you've really enjoyed so far?
Yes.
Why have you enjoyed it?
Because there's lots of fun activities.
I think it's good for us to get to come and see other families with children with visual impairments, get to talk to similar people in similar situations, and to see the kids having fun. I think that's the main thing for us, is seeing them have accessible activities that they can do and just be normal children. Yeah, so it's great for Ellie, but it's also great for Kira as a sibling of a visually impaired child to come and experience so many of the positive activities that are ongoing. I mean, Ellie gets opportunities to do all of these different fun activities, but it also gives Kira the time to do that, which she wouldn't necessarily get to do if we were just going around if we had two sighted children.
My name's Charlotte Carson and I'm the director of Look. And we've set up a youth mentoring project where we connect young visually impaired people with a mentor to help them through the different challenges in their life, whether that be in school, moving on to university or college, whether that's about learning to use a cane, whether it's about, wanting to feel better about being visually impaired, or whether you've been newly diagnosed with a visual impairment. We want to match young people with another young visually impaired person who's been through those challenges.
I'm George Hollinshead and I'm a Look mentor. I have been visually impaired / blind since birth, and my mum didn't know where to go for help because I live quite rurally. So she came to Birmingham where Look had just been started, and she got a lot of information and help chatting to parents and other people with a visual impairment. And then as I've got older, I've had continued work with Look. At school we've done sports, we've done like campaigning, things like that. And then a couple of years ago I was asked to join the mentoring programme. So that's basically going through all these things as a kid, school problems, socialising, transport, all these ways. And just at that point, I would have wanted to have someone who I could talk to, who could give me little hints and tips that would have saved a lot of time. So I felt that I needed to, give back and talk to people. And, I feel that I've got as much out of the mentoring as my mentees have too. I mean, I hope they have.
I'm just here at Carnival Arts with Kim, and she's just going to talk me through what she's doing today in this activity.
Okay, so we've got withies, which are like, it's willow, and it's really soft and flexible. It's been soaking in water overnight. And what we've been doing is we've been cutting them and sellotaping them together to make a shape. It's a rainbow shape. Of course, do you want to feel what I'm going to say?
Yeah, let's have a feel. Oh wow! And what would you use this for?
It's just a nice decoration, and it kind of rustles in the wind as well.
Just walking up the path to blind rugby now.
I'm running with the ball towards the defender. I'm waiting for a clap from my teammate. She's now clapped, so I'm going to throw the ball back.
I'm here with Chris, and he's running VI, rugby, cricket and football today. How are these sports adapted for VI children and families today at Lookfest?
Well, most significantly, the balls all have either bells or ball bearings, so people who have more sight loss can hear where the ball is rather than using their sight. But with people who have useful vision, the ball's also bright yellow or bright white, just to give them more indicators as to where the ball is on the pitch or on the field.
What we wanted to do with the festival was give young people work experience also. They can put on their CV. They've helped run and create a festival, and we really wanted to do that.
Charlotte Carson of Look ending Lucy Edwards' report. Christina Keeler, our guest today. It's possible that one of the effects of blind children going to mainstream schools is that they and their families perhaps have less contact with other blind children than they might have done in the past. Yeah, you're from Denmark, where mainstreaming was adopted pretty early. I wondered what your experience was.
Well, my experience was that I lived in a very rural area, so I was put in the local school, and I would say that for me that worked really well. I had some additional support, which worked really well for me, and it was kind of tailored specifically to my needs, and that followed me through my education really. So I would say that has been very positive for me.
And what about what you observe here? Your children are sighted, I think. Are there blind children at their schools, and what's their attitude to being at mainstream school?
Yes, I think it's very varied. I know two children in mainstream school, and the one child is doing very well. She's visually impaired, and I also know someone who's blind in that school. And I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, because I think the blind girl would prefer to be in a specialist school just because she feels that the challenges are quite significant. Just even things like getting around the school is quite tricky. So I think it's very mixed.
Right. Well, we would be very much interested in hearing people's response. It still sounds as if horses for courses is still the attitude on that. Christina Keeler, thanks very much for joining us. And that issue about dual disability is one we'd also like response on. Plenty for InTouch listeners to go at. You can call 0161 836 1338 to leave us a direct message. You can email InTouch at bbc.co.uk, or you can go to our website, that's bbc.co.uk/InTouch. And from there you can also download tonight's and previous editions of the programme. From me, Peter White, producer Tom Walker, Christina and the team, goodbye.
Scaffolding news for Friday, 9th of August 2019. In the Cowes area, there are current scaffolds at Cameos, Bath Road in Cowes, and at 1 Terminus Road in Cowes. Pending skips will be at 38 Moor Green Road, Cowes, and 5 Bayview Road, Gurnard.
In the Newport area, current scaffolds are at Units 1, 2 and 3, 32 High Street, Newport, 117 to 118 High Street, Newport, Precision Hair, 50 St James Street, Newport, 102 High Street, Newport, Age UK, 114A Pyle Street, Newport, 113 Pyle Street, Newport, and a pending cherry picker at Shate Corner Cottage, Main Road, Chillerton.
In the Ryde area, current scaffolds, they're at 35 to 36 High Street, Ryde, flats 31 to 36 Marymead Close in Ryde, 22 West Street, Seaview, Boots at 170 High Street, Ryde, Greenham's Newsagents in High Street, Ryde, 43 Nelson Street in Ryde, 25 High Street in Ryde, at the Royal York Hotel, George Street in Ryde, 41A and 41B Osborne Road in Ryde, Olivo Restaurant, 32 to 33 in Union Street, Ryde. Pending cherry pickers at Wootton Industrial Estate, White Rails Road in Wootton. Current skips at Carita, Steiner Road, Seaview, 10 Prince Street, Ryde, 34 Church Close in Wootton.
In the Sandown and Shanklin area, there are current scaffolds at 42 Fitzroy Street, Sandown, Hurst Regent Street, Shanklin, 49 Regent Street, Shanklin, and 23 High Street, Shanklin. The current cherry pickers at Downs View, Sandown, and pending cherry picker, junction of Town Lane and York Road, Sandown. Current skips at 5 Atherley Cross Road, Shanklin, and Winchester House Car Park, Sandown Road, Shanklin. Current hoardings at Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown, and pending mobile crane at Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown.
In the Ventnor area, There are current scaffolds at the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor. A pending cherry picker, junction of Zigzag Road and Ocean View Road, Ventnor, and current skips are at 16 South Street, Ventnor.
In the West Wight area, current scaffolds at Vectis Vapes Avenue Road, Freshwater, Oak Cottage, Farriers Lane, Shorewell, pending skips at Grassmere, Graham Road, Yarmouth.
And there are vehicle crossings under construction at the Meadows, Colwell Road, Freshwater, 8 Pitt Street, Ryde, 4 Binstead Lodge Road in Ryde, Marvel Lodge in Marvel Lane in Newport, and 3 Westwood Road in Ryde.